can't we use the bond program for affordable housing? So I was talking with some of our bond counsel that we use over the last few years. And the one transaction that we've come up with recently is one for Washington Housing Conservancy. And they're actually purchasing an apartment building, and they're going to actually preserve affordable housing by purchasing this particular building that they have, Huntwood Apartments, which is, I want to say it's over in Northeast, I think. Their part of their financing is through Fannie Mae. Another portion is through our program. We hope that soon we'll have some housing projects that will be almost solely financed through tax-exempt bonds. The process, and let me stop there. Did anybody have any questions or questions about different entities or anything that you've seen in the city? I mean, we've got quite a few projects. There's not a quadrant in the city that you can go into that we don't have a revenue bond project that's been financed.
I do have a question, William. Can developers, if you're a nonprofit, take advantage of the bond program? Like, say, for example, you're looking to build affordable housing in, say, for example, Southeast. Can the bond program be leveraged for that purpose?
Yes, and we're looking. I'm glad you asked that question. We are looking to do as much of that as possible. So all the different 501c3 and our goal was to close this one transaction and have a full closed example and start to provide seminars, with our particular team that worked on this one to answer as many questions, to bring in different 501c3 nonprofit housing entities so that they know that this project is available. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with Marshall Heights, and they're looking to do some things initially with their operations location, but also down the line with affordable housing. We have some charter schools that are thinking of providing housing, for teachers. So it's definitely a movement that we're trying to push, and we can combine with, we can combine with almost any type of financing in whatever your capital stack's going to be. I mean, we've done new market tax credits. Like I say, Fannie Mae is a part of one of the capital stack for this Washington Housing Conservancy transaction. Almost any, other type of financing that you want to have in your capital stack, we've been able to have a combination with our tax-exempt bonds.
Got it. And let me ask you this as a follow-up question with regard to the program. So if you're a nonprofit, you might have a for-profit partner, whatever. Are you limited to just building rental units, or can you build a combination of rental for sale and do a mixed-use development utilizing the bond program?
It's limited to rental because, and if your timing is going to be, you're going to purchase this property, you're going to renovate it and/or you're going to build it, and then once that's done, you're looking to sell it right away. You wouldn't be able to do that. Now, if you have a revenue bond transaction and let's say 10 plus years down the line, you want to sell it, now we can defease those bonds and do all the legal work around it for you to be able to sell it. But for the most part, it's going to be rental units.
Got you. So this is a minimum 10-year hold period on the face value of the bonds.
Yes.
Got it.
I have a question regarding the status, the 501c3 status. So, to become a 501c3, it's not terribly complicated, so if anybody's on the line and it's like, oh, I have this idea, but I don't know how to organize, we can help you. We have some folks that can assist you in either becoming an LLC or, whatever kind of way you want to organize. But my question is, how long is there, what requirements do you have for the organizations that apply? How long do they have to have been in operation, for example, or what are some of the requirements?
The main thing is that you've been confirmed and you have all of your documentation from the IRS that you are a 501c3 nonprofit. Okay, that could be if you just got it yesterday, it could be if you got it 10, 15 years ago. As long as everything is in good status, you're fine. Now, what you want to pay attention to as you create a 501c3 nonprofit is the mission. These bonds are connected to the mission. So if you are a charter school and you're looking to purchase a former DC public school building and you're going to purchase it and renovate it for your charter school operations, that fits. In a scenario, and I think in this conversation, we would want to have a 501c3 nonprofit that has a mission that speaks to affordable housing, job creation, development, economic development. You want to have that language in your mission. So now you're able to do a lot of things with tax exempt funds. And again, you're looking to do capital expenditures. So it's not, you can't use these funds for operational dollars or things like that. It needs to be for, hey, I'm going to, for whatever my mission is so let's go with National Public Radio. They're a 501c3 nonprofit. You know, their mission is to provide news and information. When they purchased that building and wanted to do the renovations on North Capitol Street, it all fit in. The money and what it was going to all fit in with their mission. So just if you're going to look to create a 501c3 nonprofit with the Bates Group, you want to have that kind of language in your mission. So you can be very flexible. Now, you can always have scenarios where, and Mr. Muhammad just was stating about, hey, you may have a relationship as there's a for-profit arm and a nonprofit arm. We've had definite situations where we've had like Pew Charitable Trust purchased 901 East Street some years back. And what they decided to do is for all of their operations, hey, taxes and bonds were used. For ground floor, they decided to use taxable dollars. So now they can lease that space to anyone, which in most cases, they want to have ground floor retail and have that opportunity to lease that space to any type of retail that comes their way that fits what they want to do. Also, that location, they have space that they're leasing out to other 501c3 nonprofits for below market rate. So we can have those relationships as well. United Negro College Fund, which is up in Shaw, they purchased that area, which is right behind the Howard Theater as their headquarters. And they're also leasing space to other like-minded 501c3 nonprofits at below market rates. So other entities that are looking to, you know, get kids in the college and provide those type of services, they have that in their building as well.
So, Mr. Liggins, can you take a half a step back and for those who don't understand, explain how bonds work? You know, bonds are a debt instrument. And can you explain how that works, how that process of taking out the bonds and how that repayment process works?
So in most cases, your taxes and bonds are going to be done a couple ways. One is, hey, you're going to say, hey, we need 30 million, purchase the building, do the renovations, and we're going to bring a bank to the table, and that bank is actually going to provide the financing to you, and they're going to keep those bonds in their own portfolio. Next scenario would be where you're going through the same process, but hey, now maybe the amount is so large, it's 100 million, it's 200 million, it's whatever. You're going to sell those bonds actually out on the market. You're going to go to the market and sell those bonds. There's still going to be an underwriter involved, but you're going to be selling those bonds on the market. In most cases, you're looking to get a fixed rate. In normal scenarios, your taxes and bonds interest rates are usually 2 to 3% lower than whatever your market, whatever that actual going rate or main rate is going to be as far as your interest rate. You can actually go into, you have your fixed rates, and then you also have your variable rates. Your variable rates are usually going to be somewhere 1% or lower, but you're going to have someone kind of watching the market and stating, hey, okay, I'm watching the market. Hey, I think right now we need to jump in and swap into a fixed rate for the rest of the life of your bond issuance. did I kind of cover what you were asking?
Generally speaking, can you talk about bond redemption? How do you when you're looking at your bonds, you're looking at what, 10, 20, and 30-year bonds, correct?
So the good thing about these, which makes it so attractive to these different nonprofits, is that normally your bond issuance is going to be anywhere from 20 to 30-year loan agreements.
Correct.
You're going to save millions over the life of those bonds. That's why we have so many entities that come back time and time again when they have a new project. And even, like I say, even if they still have a balance left on the issuance that they did maybe 5-10 years ago, they're coming back now, they have a new project, and they're also going to see what the rates are. If the rates are even better than what they had on that initial issuance, they're going to we call it refunding in the bond world, but just look at it as we're going to refinance that in addition to getting the new money out for whatever that new project is.
Got it. And how does the bond redemption process work? Like once you get to the end of the bond term and say you're, repaying, can you explain that?
So I mean, so as far as you and the bank, you're paying your debt service. You have your debt service payments that you're making every year. And
Correct.
it's attractive on the other side, to your point, it's attractive on the other side because they're tax exempt. So if you decide to, and most retirement investment portfolios have tax exempt bonds in them because they're not volatile, they're usually steady, and so you want your portfolio to be as diverse as possible. These bonds, you don't pay taxes on these bonds when you redeem them. So banks that hold them, or insurance companies that decide to hold these bonds, and or individuals that have these bonds as part of their retirement and or investment portfolios, when they decide to sell these bonds at the end of the day, they're not charged taxes on these. They're tax exempt. And they're very, very attractive on that end. And like I said, it's something that, when you're looking to do your investment and create that portfolio, you want to have tax exempt bonds in there because they're so steady.
Got it. All right. So last question, I promise that series of questions was for clarification for the audience. Believe it or not, I've had many careers, including being on Wall Street as an analyst. So this is actually pretty exciting for me right now. But as it relates to how you can utilize the bond program from a nonprofit perspective, can the bonds be utilized to buy and create a cooperative from an affordable housing perspective?
And I'm glad you asked that, because we're talking through that right now with the lawyers to see if that structure works. The co-op scenario, and you can actually help me with this as well. The co-op scenario is a scenario where the entity, that individual ends up owning their particular unit, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Well, I take that back. They don't own their unit. They own shares in the corporation that represent that unit. So their unit represents a privilege as it relates to ownership, as it relates to ownership in a corporation.
And is that co-op, is that co-op developed as a 501c3 nonprofit?
It can be.
And that's the question that we're having and we're talking with the lawyers about, because I would love to see that happen, because now that just increases the opportunities for different groups to be able to take advantage of taxes and bonds for housing. We're trying to figure out what, and I'll ask this question: what would be the benefits outside of bond financing if that co-op is a 501c3 nonprofit?
Honestly, there would be a lot of benefits as far as cost of operation, as well as cost of ownership. So as a 501c3 nonprofit, the co-op itself would not have to pay taxes on a great many things associated with maintenance, associated with expenses in general for the co-op. In addition, it would provide tax relief, which would also reduce the cost of ownership and co-op fees.
Now, in that co-op scenario, that co-op entity would be a 501c3 and it would own all of the units and be renting those units out to those individuals.
Technically, so the people who quote unquote own into a co-op would be owning shares in the actual corporation. They don't actually own the units.
Okay. And that's where I guess the lawyers are kind of stuck in their opinions, let's say, as to if it can. I mean, we're still talking through that scenario, and I would love to continue to have that conversation and maybe bring you in the conversation when we're having it, so you can speak from your perspective as to how you think it would work. What I'm saying is the co-op's 501c3, if it's the Johnson co-op and it's a 501c3, its mission is going to be what?
Would be affordable housing, and it could be affordable housing for seniors. It can be a lot of different things associated with that. I'd actually love to get Joe's opinion on this, because I think Joe outranks Ebony and Marty and I. Joe, you're still on mute.
You got me now?
Yeah, I got you now.
No, yeah, this is for my selling career, this is a little bit outside of what I'm used to dealing with. So it's I'm actually learning from all y'all, which is very I love this aspect of it. I love this whole program and everything you're doing there. I guess I'm just my curiosity just lies in how that how we can bridge the gap between, you know, I guess your department, the real estate community, to actually really push these programs is really where I'm more interested in from the management side of things. Because obviously, especially with everything going on right now in the housing market, it's affordable housing is a major challenge that we're gonna have to deal with moving forward. And obviously departments like what you have and you know, opportunities like you have, you know, I think obviously we're the natural liaison between, you know, getting these things out and how we can, you know, really work with, you know, the private sector to, you know, actually make these things, you know, really, you know, out there in the open more so for, you know, the general community that we're trying to serve.
No. And again, my mindset with the program is always, I would rather have the conversation and make sure that we exhaust all ideas and efforts and just figure out, hey, this really doesn't work, than never have the conversation. And in many cases, I've had conversations with different entities that thought that the revenue bond program was something that they couldn't access, and then come to find out actually their program, their project, their entity was perfect. They just didn't know, they didn't understand. I mean, because now, and to give an idea, that $2 million line is about a minimum for a revenue bond transaction. I've had people call me up thinking, hey, can I use a revenue bond program? I only need about $500,000. And I'm like, okay, well, what is it? Okay, we're going to actually purchase some trucks for our operation. And then we're also doing, we just want to use that to purchase trucks, but we're also purchasing a building, and we're going to do about, you know, $8 million in renovations to the building. I'm like, well, hold on. Now you have a $15, $20 million revenue bond transaction. And they just didn't know that you could use the bond financing for acquisition, renovation, and construction, as long as it was a part of your 501c3 mission, in addition to equipment. I mean, we've, some years back, we did about an $8 to $10 million acquisition of cancer equipment for the Children's Hospital. They financed that equipment. So again, any ideas that anyone on your team on this call right now, anyone else who you are working with, any ideas that you have, please contact me in any way, shape, or form. I want to have the conversation. This particular co-op conversation is something that we've had now, and I would definitely love to bring you into this conversation so we can explore just how we can do it. Because my mindset seems to be in with yours to say, hey, if the co-op entity itself that's being created is a 501c3 nonprofit, and it's going to own, they're going to be the entity now, and that's the thing about these bonds. You need to be a 501c3 nonprofit, and you're actually going to purchase and own this property, or you have leasehold control. You have some sort of site control. So either you're purchasing it, you're going to own it, or you're going to have some sort of lengthy lease related to this property.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think we can. I'm sorry. Give me 2 seconds. I think we can really explore this conversation. I'll be very happy to work with you and talk to you about this offline. With the co-op, the co-op officially owns everything. When you join a co-op, you are buying and purchasing shares, and those shares represent the space, the privilege to occupy the space. But the co-op still, owns it. So kind of think about being a co-op owner really as being a long-term tenant. And being able to be in a cooperative environment, especially in a tax-free nonprofit environment, that really does help from a affordable housing perspective, as it reduces the cost of ownership.
Right.
It also reduces, your level of exposure as a group. And so it offers a lot of protections, and we would love to help you incubate that idea, because it's something that we've been kicking around for a long time. We've talked a lot in our group about, the amount of commercial space that is unoccupied, and just due to zoning and limitations of zoning, we're not able to access those spaces. And there are a lot of, I actually see someone on the line who I do believe has a 501c3, and we sold a commercial spot to them in Baltimore. And I'm curious, I don't know if this person is willing to share. I know they're in Baltimore, or has any questions. And I also know that we're at the end of our, 6:30 line. So, if there are any questions out there for people who have 501c3s who are on the line, go ahead and speak up. We want to hold space for you.
So good evening. I just hopped on the call. Thanks for the invite, Ebony. Please excuse my tardiness. Yeah, I do understand. I just heard that there's a 501c3 component, and then there's the expectation that the 501c3 will actually occupy some sort of commercial space for the purposes of, whether it be, medical, educational. Is this an opportunity for an organization that, is 501c3, does have experience with occupying commercial space? Like, is this the ideal sort of pathway to pursue and securing that space? Because we do actually envision needing more space, and we also need more equipment and things of that sort to service what the nonprofit mission actually is. So
if I'm hearing you correctly, you definitely can use taxes and bonds, to purchase additional space. You can even use taxes and bonds to probably refinance what you've already purchased if you still have, a balance left on that actual acquisition as well. Yeah.
If that's in Baltimore, can they tie that in somehow?
Now here's the thing.
As long as there's an anchor
in Baltimore, so that it can go some different ways. You can actually go through Maryland's program and finance it through, their tax exempt bond program. Or if you're physically going to be located in the district, if you're looking to expand your program into the district and purchase a property and renovate it and, put all your equipment in here in the district, you would use our program. Now, we have what we call a host approvals. So let's say if your first location, you bond finance through the Maryland program. You could say, hey, we want to locate in the district, and we can do that two ways. You could go through the Maryland program again, and we would just need to provide host approval. There's additional documentation, there's an additional hearing that needs to be held, and there's a fee cost to that. And you would do everything through Maryland. We would just give host approval so you can locate in the district and use the Maryland program, or you can just use our program because it's going to be located in the district. Now, the district or that actual host jurisdiction can decide which way they want to go. We can say, hey, no, we want you to go through our program, so you have to go through our program, or we can say, hey, okay, we'll allow you guys, we'll just do a host approval, smaller fee, and you can locate, in our city using the other jurisdictions' bond program. One quick example was this is a while ago. This is Washington Hospital Center had a location that was in the district, and then they also spread out to Maryland, and Maryland provided host approval, and we did the DC location as well as the Maryland location with tax exempt bond financing through the district's program. And it's come the other way. So Johns Hopkins recently purchased what used to be the museum, which is in downtown on Pennsylvania Avenue in the district. They recently purchased that. They went through the Maryland program because that's what they've done in other issuances for projects that they have on their footprint, which is right there in Baltimore. Sibley Hospital had for years used the district's program, but when Johns Hopkins took over Sibley and they wanted to do some renovation and expansion, we allowed that host approval to happen, so they would go through the taxes and bond program in Maryland for that Sibley property, which is up in Georgetown.
Well, William, this program is dynamic, and we always say this every single month that a half hour isn't enough. So we're hoping to have you back because we just got the tip of the iceberg right now, and we're realizing there's a lot to this program, and I think that there's a lot for us to talk about as well, as far as our ideas and what we have around affordable housing and what we could do for people here in the district. So, before you go, do you want to leave us with some kind of information? Like, is there a way or a website where people can go to access your info?
Let me do this so I can be as proactive as possible. I'm going to give you my email address, which is simple. It's william.liggins, Liggins @dc.gov. William.liggins @dc.gov.
Thank you so much, William.
And please feel free to reach out to me. And I'll get as much contact information from you, Ebony, as possible, because I want to make sure that as we begin to roll out and have these different seminars, that you are invited so you can provide your expertise. We want to just get to the point where we can say, hey, if you're going to use our bond program for housing, affordable housing, hey, here's the bare minimum. Let's talk about what your project's going to be, and let's see if we can, tweak some things and make sure that it fits what you want to do, but also fits into the program so you can take advantage of these much cheaper interest rates in this cheap money.
It's amazing that your office offers this kind of support. Hats off to the mayor's office. So thank you for that. We'll definitely be in touch, and I wouldn't be surprised if a few people reach out to you. Again, we're here every single month. We're definitely going to be asking you back, William, offline. We'll figure out another time that you can come on. I'd love to hear even more about the program, and especially too, we didn't even really touch on what DCF housing HFA has to offer and how you work with them, because that's a whole nother thing. So,
And I would look to, you know, on the next time to see if I can have someone from HFA get on the call as well. So, you know, they can provide all of their information and their different programs that they have, because they have some new things that they're doing at HFA.
well, it would be great if we could even do it next month as a follow on to this one, but we'll get in touch with you. And before we go, I know we're already over time, but does anybody have any last parting questions or burning things that they want to say before we go? Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you, William. Thanks to the team. Thanks for everybody who came here tonight. Thank you, Joe, for joining. I really appreciate it. And let's figure out how to leverage this program. And we'll see you next month on here. Same time, same link. So thanks.